Welcome to Break Check. This is the one-stop shop for Rocket League esports coverage, news, rumors, blah, blah, blah. We just like to yip here. And today we're going to be going over some winter to spring season, just recap and kind of prepare for this final third spring split of the RLCS 21-22 season. So the first thing on the docket, as you guys can see here, it's a winter major recap. And obviously, we got the G2W. G2 finally getting the elusive RLCS LAN win. We'll go ahead and look at this on Liquipedia here. So G2 did get the W. We had Queso coming in second, Space Station coming in third, FaZe Clan coming in fourth, and definitely had some surprises at the Winter Major. I think we had some really big performances from teams that they just kind of exceeded expectations, right? I think many people had Queso performing well, but the manner in which they ran through the lower bracket gauntlet was very, very impressive. They took down many teams on the way. We'll go ahead and look at that in just a moment. Space Station, absolutely a team that no one was predicting Space Station top four, right? Space Station missed out on the fall major, picked up Daniel, and while they improved, they had a little bit of some shaky performances throughout the winter split, but they showed up big time in the winter major. FaZe Clan, once again, probably exceeded expectations a little bit. And version 1, very similar to Space Station as far as people kind of writing them off, or maybe not writing them off, but just not predicting them to do well. And we had Furia finally showing everybody what they could do, what they could achieve on an international stage. I'm excited for that Furia team. I'm sure that's going to instill a little bit of confidence in them moving forward. And then falling down the rest of the placements. Evil Geniuses, this is fine. I think this is kind of where everybody had them. Team BDS, obviously a little bit of an underperformance. Endpoint, a little bit of an underperformance. We had Pioneers really showing their stuff here, showing that they are capable of hanging with the best in the world. Almost taking down BDS in a 5-game series. We had NRG definitely underperform. Dig definitely underperform as well. And then these bottom four, not too big of a surprise in all honesty, except for Sandrock, who is obviously a disappointment in the fact that they just weren't able to attend the major. So this all went down in Los Angeles. It was the groups stage format into a hybrid bracket, similar or the exact same format as we saw in all three regionals for the winter split in every region. And so we can take a quick glance at the group stage. V1 goes 3-0 in Group A, taking down Queso and FaZe. A little bit of surprise there. Furia tops the group in Group B over Endpoint and NRG. We had G2 topping the group in Group C, which I think maybe a little bit of a surprise, but not really. I think there's probably some people predicting BDS, but there's also probably some people predicting G2 to take this. But great performance, a 3-0 from G2 there. And then we had Space Station taking Group D, and Group D was the one that kind of sacrificed or suffered a little bit from this SRG, lack of attendance here. And so Space Station take down both Dig and Pioneers and take the 1 seed. So we had V1, Space Station, Furia, and G2 in the upper semifinals, straight out of the gate. That's 3 NA squads, and I think that it was probably exciting for a lot of the NA crew, especially coming off the back of the fall major where EU seemed to outperform NA just a little bit. And I know the NA people take great pride in their performances, and so I'm sure this was exciting. Anyways, we drop down here to the lowers round 1, and so this is obviously very dangerous. 1 loss and you're out. So FaZe Clan ended up taking down Endpoint. BDS narrowly take down Pioneers. We had Queso, again, narrowly taking down NRG, and then Evil Geniuses, surprisingly, taking down Dig. So some early exits here from Dig and NRG. Again, I think Endpoint as well. And Pioneers, while it may have been a little bit of an early exit, I think they showed some promising stuff for the future. We got lower round 2. FaZe ended up 3-0. And if I'm not mistaken, this was a perfect sweep. BDS did not score a single goal. So FaZe, 3-0 sweep BDS here in the lower round 2. And then we got Queso, 3-0 sweeping Evil Geniuses as well. We'll jump up here to the upper semis. B1, they actually end up losing to Space Station. And then G2 take down Furia as well on their run through this bracket. FaZe Clan, as we drop to the lower quarterfinals, FaZe Clan will take down Version 1 in a 7-game series, and Queso will take down Furia in a 7-game series. Both good matchups here. And then as we move forward, Queso is going to continue their run of dominance and take down FaZe. If we look at this run from Queso, they take down NRG, they take down Evil Geniuses, they take down Furia, they take down FaZe Clan. Space Station end up dropping to G2 in the upper bracket final. And then Queso continue the run, and they take down Space Station in a nail-biting 7-game series. If for some reason you happen to miss this, you need to go back and watch this. This was crazy. And then Queso, with that momentum, they come in, and they do take the first set off of G2. They will have to bracket reset because G2's coming from the upper side. They have not lost yet, whereas Queso's coming from the lower side. And they just didn't have enough gas in the tank to complete the run. G2 will go ahead and take the W there in the Winter Major. So big congratulations to G2. They kind of showed everybody that the move was worth it, that Atomic is a good fit. JNAP's got that RLCS LAN win that he'd been hunting for a long time. And I'm just excited for that G2 roster. Hopefully they can continue this run moving. But on the back of that, we're going to jump right into this trade window. So this trade window was definitely a unique one. As the title says, we had wild rumors. We got Mark by 8 on BDS. We got Turbo on Envy. And we got Fairy Peak on Vitality. All 3 players benched, not traded, not sold. And now this is something we'll touch on in a moment. Not loaned, but benched. So they are still on those teams, but they are going to remain in a sub role. This is something that it's happened before. So it's not brand new, but it is kind of rare, especially for that level of talent, to be kind of slotted into a sub role and stuck in a sub role rather than being traded away or sold away to a different team to compete. So that was a little bit unique. You also heard me mention loans. We did have a unique scenario here where a player was loaned to a new team. Now, as far as RLCS is concerned, as far as Rocket League Esports is concerned, officially that player was traded. That player will be on the other roster. The loan aspect of the trade is not really relevant for this RLCS 21-22 season, but it is a note to mention because at the end of the RLCS 21-22 season, this player will return to their previous rosters. We had Semper, who was previously Archie, Cassio, and Chaussette, end up loaning Archie to Endpoint. Endpoint, as you can see in the title there, had to replace the move from Seikoo. Seikoo is now on BDS, which now connects the dots there for Mark being on the bench. Mark moved to the bench. Seikoo from Endpoint to BDS, and now Endpoint has a slot to fill, and they fill it with the move from Semper. But and like I said, it's worth mentioning that it's a loan. At the end of the season, Archie will return to Semper, or at least he has the option to. So that's kind of a unique thing as well. Just something I wanted to mention throughout this trade window. So we'll look at this, and we got the not Cloud9 here thing. There's a bunch of memes on Twitter yesterday about Queso and who are they. As I have noted, it's ex-Queso. They are no longer under the Queso banner. They are still a team, those 3 players, but it is yet to be seen who they are going to be representing as an organization moving forward throughout the rest of the season. So I do want to talk about EU for just a moment, because in the fall to winter trade window, NA had a big shuffle up. We had all kinds of shenanigans going on left and right. We had new players entering the scene with Daniel and Aqua. I mean, kind of beast mode as well. I know he's not new, but not participating in the fall split. And so him jumping back into the scene just provided for some shenanigans and some shuffling on the NA side of things. But this time, in between the winter and spring split, we've actually got Europe that is doing a lot of shuffling. So BDS, even though they're in first place, they were not satisfied with their performances. It seems like there may have been a little bit of dissatisfaction within the team environment. Maybe everybody wasn't totally satisfied. I don't know, communication or motivation or performance or results. I don't really know the ins and outs of it, but BDS decided to make a change, and they brought in Seikoo in place of Mark. And hey, on paper, that it looks like the best team on earth. You know, that's what it looks like. They've got to bring the result. They got to bring that from paper to the field, right? They've got to bring it to the pitch. But on paper, that is a very, very scary roster, and I am excited to see how they perform. We've got Dignitas, who did not make a roster change, but it is worth noting that they are looking to bring on a coach. They've been a roster that is operating without a coach at the moment. We've got not Cloud9, which is ex-Queso. This is Rise Vatira, obviously have performed very well, and they also have a note here. It's worth mentioning. They have actually separated from their coach. They have parted ways. And again, just like the BDS situation, we don't know the ins and outs of it, but the players and the coach are now separate. And so Seikoo is now kind of doing the inverse of Dig, and they are operating without a coach. We got Evil Geniuses. They did not make a move. Simper did make a move. They released Archie or loaned him out to Endpoint, and they brought in Exotic, another French player. So now they have a full French roster in Exotic, Cassio, and Chaussette. I'm excited to see what they can do with that change. We've got Team Vitality making a change as well, bringing in Radisson from Williams Resolve. Once again, a full French roster. Radisson, Alpha, K-Dop. Hopefully, Team Vitality can right the ship and begin climbing the ladder as far as points here. They've got some ground to make up if they want to make it into the World Championship. They made a change as well. They removed Stake. They brought in Noli. They've played in a couple tournaments here and there, and they definitely seem a little bit more excited to play. They seem like maybe the mentality has been kind of revitalized, rejuvenated, and so I'm excited to see that roster throughout the rest of this split. K-Corp is one of the most, and this is going to sound really rude. I don't mean it rude, but it's one of the most disappointing rosters probably of all time. There was so much hype, so much buzz around that team at the beginning of this season, and they just did not live up to expectations. We got Misfits not making a change. 0-0 Nation, no change. Luminosity, no change. Williams Resolve did have to make a change because Radisson left. They plugged in Stake from K-Corp, and from there, we've got a couple other changes. Bricks is basically Cookser's minions, but they have replaced Cookser with Speed. So they kind of revived the name, the Bricks. They revived that team name. And then we got Heroic down at the bottom here in the 16th spot. They have replaced, I actually forgot, who did they brought in Noasaki. Oli, I forgot, Oli. So Oli has been removed from the Heroic roster, and Noasaki will join Violent Panda and Yukio, and they're going to make their run for the spring split with that roster. Over on the North American side, we didn't have as much changing. In fact, G2, no change. NRG, no change. FaZe, no change. Space Station, no change. V1, no change. Complexity, Envy, Oxygen, and Rogue, all. No, actually, that's not true. Complexity, Oxygen, and Rogue, no change. Envy is making a change. They put Turbo Pulsa to the sub role. They benched him, and they brought in Illusion, who was their coach for the winter. And this is kind of the theory that a few people had. They thought that Illusion was too good to be a coach, right? People were saying, this is wild. This player just had a top 4 finish in a fall major. This is crazy. I cannot believe he's in a coach spot. And so some people kind of theorized that he may be plugged in to a starting role when the spring split rolls around, and it seems that has become true. So Envy, it's going to be Illusion, Drees, and Mist for this final split of the season. We've also got Xset. They made a change. They had removed Hoxer, and they brought in Rapid. Hoxer joined Ghost. He replaced Roldiz, who moved into retirement. Sonic's no change. Torrent made a change. They removed Jordan. They brought in a player named Zanil, a young talent that many may not know, but he's definitely one to keep eyes on. Charlotte Phoenix, no change. Rebellion, obviously losing Rapid, and they brought in Torrent, Jordan. So Jordan, we got some shuffling between Rebellion, Torrent, Xset, Ghost, some movement right in there. And one thing that I want to mention before we get off this trade window topic, I think it's very interesting. I am curious to see if this will remain true throughout seasons in the future, but there's almost this pendulum swing between regions and between tiers within a region. And so what I mean is, in the fall, right, we see the EU region perform a little bit better than the North American region at the major, and then there was almost this response where North America was dissatisfied. They did not like that, and so they made some changes, right? Almost like a knee-jerk or reaction type thing. And so the top of the region made some changes, right? These guys made some changes. These guys made some changes at the end of the fall, right? While the bottom of things really didn't change all that much after the fall split. So that's one thing. We had the top changing, not so much the bottom. And we also had EU not really changing. We fast forward to the winter split. We have NA outperform EU just a hair. And now we've kind of seen the pendulum swing the other direction. Now we've got changes here, changes here, changes here, here, right? And so we see a little bit more shuffling towards the top of the region. This time, not so much over here, but we do see some shuffling at the bottom of the region, right? So, like I said, there's kind of some pendulum swing within their own regions where the top of the region shuffles, and then the next split, we see a little bit more towards the bottom. We've also got a pendulum swing between regions where fall was NA, a little bit of shuffling, and now the pendulum has swung over to the EU side, and now there's a little bit shuffling over here. So I thought that was interesting and just something to note, maybe to watch out for moving forward. I'm just curious if that is going to remain true in the following seasons, because there's just an interesting aspect to this type of format that we didn't really used to have, where in the offseason, I am predicting that we're going to see quite a bit of shuffling. I think we could see maybe more shuffling in this offseason than any season in the past. So we'll see how that goes. Just a kind of a one-off prediction, and we'll see what happens there. All right, so we're going to plug that in at the end. So that's going to do it really with the trade window. The next thing, we got more lands. Obviously, LA, the Winter Major was the first in-crowd event that we have had in a long time, over 2 years at this point. And so I know there was a lot. I mean, personally, I was very, very excited. And I know there's a lot of other people that were excited too, the players, fans, all that good stuff. And even the esports staff, I know that they're excited to get back in-person events. So more lands. And at the LA land, they announced that there are going to be 2 more lands this season. So we have the Spring Split Major, which is going to be in London. Really exciting. They go back to the location of Season 5 in London, which was one of the most iconic Rocket League Championship Series World Championships of all time. So return to London, really exciting. And then the World Championship of the RLCS 21-22 season is going to be held in Dallas, Texas. Very exciting. I know for me, that's pretty close to where I am location-wise. So I'm excited for that. I can't wait. I'm definitely going to be there. And I hope to see many of you there as well. So that was just a quick bit. More lands, always exciting. Can't wait to watch more Rocket League in person. Next up, we got closed quals. We're going to go ahead and jump into this spring split. Closed quals in the North American region were interesting. It was very full of shenanigans. We had some first-time qualification players with a full rookie team in Friends, and I will go ahead and kind of hover over that roster for a moment. We'll look at them. Friends is Salado, Roxers, and Snaz, and I am going to go ahead and guess that there are plenty of people that have never heard these names, and I understand why. So Salado is he's a high-level player. He's been around the competitive space for a while, hasn't really been able to break into the tippy top. Wasn't able to compete in RLRS back in the day or RLCS, and so this is kind of his first jump into the pro scene. Roxers is a name that I recognize as well, a little bit more recently, I would say, but definitely around that competitive space for a little bit up until now. And then Snaz is somebody that even I probably recognize a few more names around the bubble space just due to the coaching that I used to do a little over a year ago at this point. But Snaz is one that even I was not really familiar with. And so, like I said, full rookie roster, and my word, did they pop off. They had an incredible performance. We'll look at that real quick. They start the day 3-0 Rogue, 3-0 Accrue. 2 very solid teams, and man, oh man, what a great for the Friends there in the closed qualifier on Sunday. They fall 0-3 to CLT, but we can't really fault them. CLT absolutely went on a tear. They played so well. We'll bounce back to that in just a moment. And then Friends, they finish up the performance with a 3-2 win over All Mid. And this is something we got to give credit for, because these two things, 3-0, 3-0, incredible, awesome. You deserve credit, but things become real when you're on that final series. It's the same thing in a best of 7. When you get to that 4th win, it's really hard to close things out, because then it becomes real. You start thinking about, oh gosh, I actually can qualify. I actually can get into this event. I actually can win this series, or whatever the situation is. And so we got to give a big shout and just a round of applause to Friends for closing it out and qualifying. I'm excited to see what they do come main event. The next topic that I want to talk about is the 3-0. We got Ghost and Charlotte. Charlotte not making a change, but Ghost with the addition of Hoxer. Wow. Ghost look incredible. They've been in a couple off-season or downtime tournaments, whatever you want to call it, during this break between the Winter Major and the Spring Split beginning. And Ghost has just looked really, really solid with Hoxer. So I'm excited to see that. CLT, they're a team that has just kind of been hit or miss. They're fairly consistent, but we just haven't really seen them break into that next level. And this type of performance gives me a little bit of hope that maybe they can. I do want to mention here, so let's see. We'll look at CLT right here. They dropped game 1 to E United, and then they closed out the series 3-1. And then look at this. They dropped the first game of the evening, and then they go 9 straight across 3 separate series. So CLT really did just go on an absolute tear throughout the closed qualifier. I do have to talk about Rogue, and I hate to talk about them in this manner, but this is concerning. This is not good. I was casting for Rogue. Had a pleasure of watching them. And my, oh my, what a slow start. I mean, we just looked sluggish. We were not in sync. The players were double and triple committing well into the evening. It didn't look like the same Rogue that we saw throughout all the winter. Now, we do want to give credit because the best teams are the teams that can make it happen and they can do what they need to do even when they don't bring their best stuff. And that's what Rogue did on Sunday. They did not have their best stuff. They were not playing their best. And they still made it happen. And that is, again, that's the mark of a good team. That's a mark of a team that has maturity and competitive experience. And props to Rogue for making it happen even when they weren't on their A game. But we'll go ahead and look at this. We got CLT, we got Ghost, we got Friends in that third slot. That is crazy. We got Sonics. Sonics look pretty good throughout the evening as well. We got Accrue. This used to be Vibrance, if you're not sure who this is. We got Accelerate making their second appearance in regionals. I think maybe their third. We got All Mid. I do think this is their second appearance. Props to All Mid. I'll go up here and we'll glance at them. Flitz, Kiri, and Angel. They do have, individually, they have some competitive experience, but as a team, they have only made it into one regional, so I'm excited to see them back once more. And then we got the teams that failed to qualify. Rebellion, tough losses. This is, I mean, I feel awful for Rebellion. They lost to 5 teams that qualified. Every single loss, or I'm sorry, they played. They only lost to 3. But every team that they played was a team that qualified into the main event. So Rebellion had quite the difficult run. Unfortunately, after 2 wins, they couldn't make it happen. And this is tough. I know this is tough, especially with they got a new roster, bringing in Jordan, and they fell short. I know that's frustrating, but I hope they can bounce back. We got Tequila, a roster that is kind of in and out. Sometimes they make day 2s, sometimes they make close calls. They couldn't complete the task here on Sunday. We got E United, another roster that is kind of in and out, a little bit of, they're consistently on the fringe of making events, right? They almost always make it into day 3, and then sometimes they make it into regionals. So they're kind of bouncing around. I think they do have plenty of room to improve, but we're going to see what they do. They made a roster change. They removed Tristan, and they brought in a player named, and we'll see how that unfolds throughout the remainder of this season. We got Torrent, again, bringing in the Zenil, a roster change, and unfortunately couldn't make it happen. They go 1-3. Randoms, another team that you should keep your eye on. We got Two Piece and Chronic. These 2 players have made quite the name for themselves in community tournaments and 1v1 events and stuff before they ever turned 15. And now that they have team, they've popped into regionals once or twice, I think. Got a couple of good solid wins inside of those regionals, and definitely, in my opinion, have a bright future. Keep an eye on those players tonight as well. We got Xset, and goodness gracious, I mean, look, we got some tough draws, okay? But this is just 0-3, 0-3, 0-3. This is not good. I know that Xset is going to be better than this. I don't know if this is just a rough start, maybe some miscues or whatever because it's a roster change. Who knows? But I expect to see Xset perform better than this in the next 2 regionals. And then we got Prestige and Gentlemen. These are 2 rosters that have very, very talented players. I think the only thing that these 2 rosters lack is just experience. And I fully believe that these 2 rosters, at least the 6 players on these rosters, are probably going to make their way into RLCS. It may not be on these 2 rosters. It may be shuffled up. They may be plucked onto a different roster or something like that. But these 6 players on these 2 rosters are all high-quality players. We'll look at it. We got No Mansion, KX, and Nebra. No Mansion's been in a regional or 2 himself. And then we got Prestige, Jay, Blaze, and Hockey, all high-level talent as well. So I'm excited to see that. I'm glad they made it into this. Definitely a tough run here, both going 0-3 and being the first 2 teams eliminated. But sometimes that's just how it unfolds. Again, I'm excited to see them through the remainder of this split. Last but certainly not least, we are going to go ahead and look at this first regional bracket, okay? First regional bracket, we got NA. This is how it's going to shake out. We are going to take a look at the points race as well in just a moment. But right here, we got G2 playing Friends. And I'm going to tell you right now, if I could talk to Sathu, I would just say, brother, don't sleep on them. Y'all don't take them lightly. I know that you should win. There's no doubt in my mind that you should win. It's a trap game. Don't take them lightly. We got Envy versus Complexity, and this is going to be an absolute banger. What a round 1 match. I mean, unlucky draw for both of these guys, but hey, it is how it is. It's unfortunate, but you just got to step up to the plate and do your thing. And so I'm excited to see this. I will say I have high hopes for Complexity turning things around. They are all living together. They have been relocated to Dallas, I think, at the Complexity facilities, and I am expecting to see a pretty abrupt turnaround from the winter split for this Complexity roster. We got V1 taking on All Mid. Once again, I would definitely say don't underestimate this squad. NRG and Ghost. Man, NRG better bring it. NRG got to bring it. I think this Ghost roster is hungry. They're excited. They've got a couple of good performances under their belt before this split begins, and I know that they're brimming with confidence. And so NRG, I think they have probably kind of had a fire lit under them as well, as far as a little bit of an underperformance at the major. So I'm excited to see them bring their A game, or hopefully bring their A game this final split, but they better not take Ghost lightly. We got FaZe versus Accelerate. I expect FaZe to do well here. Rogue versus Sonics. This is two teams from the closed qualifier, and this is one of the things that, I'm not going to say that I dislike it, but it's one of those things that kind of makes you raise your eyebrows. We got two teams from the closed quals here, and we got two teams that are auto-invited to this event. And so, again, it is what it is. It's just how the rules work. It's how the seeding works. But like I said, it makes me raise my eyebrows a little bit. I don't know who to predict here. I mean, my gut would say Rogue, but Sonics has looked good lately, and Rogue struggling on Sunday makes me kind of hesitant to predict them, but we'll see how this unfolds as well. We got Space Station versus the Crew. I would predict Space Station to take this dub, especially coming off the great performance from the Winter Major. I feel like they're going to gain a lot of confidence and use that confidence rolling into this final split. And then we got Oxygen versus CLT. This was kind of up in the air as well. I would expect Oxygen, but CLT looked really good in the closed qual. So we'll see how that goes. And the big thing that we need to make sure that we take note of here is double elim, right? We think about the Swiss stage. You are not eliminated until you lose 3 times. We think about groups. You can lose twice and then make it into the bracket, and then again, you get that third loss, and then you're eliminated. That's not the case here in this double elim. It is going to be cutthroat. It is going to be savage. We got one loss, and you're going to be knocked to the lowers, and it's just how it's going to work. All of the favored teams are not going to win round 1 matches. It's just not going to happen. It's just sometimes the teams that's supposed to win, they don't win. And so we're going to have some high-level rosters down here in the lowers round 1. And it is going to be cutthroat. I am hoping to see some just absolutely dogfight, awesome gauntlet runs through the lower bracket. I hope somebody starts here and just makes that run all the way through, and we see them in the grand finals. Double elim, it's going to be fun for the viewers. It's going to be tight and tough for the players. I'm excited to see it as we move into this final split. Now, the last thing that we want to look at, I do want to look at points. Actually, let me see. Is it over here? I don't know where it is. Let me pull it up. We got rankings. So we just want to glance at the points and the standings for a moment, because it is important to look at as we come to the conclusion of this season. Right now, World's spot. Now, this is kind of difficult to explain. I'll do my best in the shortest, quickest way possible. There are going to be 8 teams that qualify straight into the World Championship. All right? But those teams are going to qualify straight to the World Championship, and they're just going to sit there for a little bit. They're just going to be hanging out. We're also going to have a wild card championship, all right? And that is going to decide the next 8 teams that are going to join the auto-qual 8 teams, and then we're going to have 16 teams in that World Championship, right? But before we have anybody for these 8 competitors right here, we gotta do that wild card, okay? So that's how it's going to work. And right now we can see these 8 spots they're up for grabs. It's not dedicated 2 to NA, 2 to EU. It's not like that. They are up for grabs depending on your performances throughout the season. So right now, EU has the number 1 spot, and NA has the number 2 spot, or I guess it's kind of tied at that number 1 spot. And then NA also has that 3 seed. NA also has that 4 seed, where we have EU3 sitting in the 5 and 6 spot, and then we have NA grabbing a 4th spot in that top 8 auto qualification, and then we have SAM grabbing the final spot there for auto qualification for World Championship. Now, the reason that's relevant, okay, if we look at this, if 4 NA teams end up qualifying, the wild card spot is determined. And in the wild card, there's going to be 3 NA, 3 EU, 2 SAM, 2 OCE, 1 APAC North, 1 APAC South. I think there's going to be 2 MENA and 2 SSA. I think that's how it works. I could be incorrect. If I am, I'm sorry. Please correct me if I am wrong. But the reason that's important is if NA has 4 qualify straight into Worlds, and then they have those 3 guarantee spots for the wild card, that means NA will have 1, 2, 3, 4 teams plus 1, 2, 3 more that get to go to the wild card. Okay? So they could have a total of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 teams representing North America at the World Championship event. So if we look at that and we compare it to EU, and let's say EU only ends up with 3 spots, 1, 2, 3 within the top 8, that would leave these guys qualified, and then there would only be 6 European teams representing the region at the World Championship. So it is important. It's something to take note of. It's something to watch out for here as we close this season. Plenty of teams in the running for these final. What you really want to look at is 4 through 7. 4 through 7 is really what's relevant for those wild cards for both the NA and EU regions. And as we could see here, there are plenty of teams right here in the running, especially when you think about, misfits. If they have a couple of good performances in spring regionals and then they make it to the major, they could get a big points jump for major and stuff like that. So we'll see. It's definitely up in the air. It's definitely up for grabs. Nothing is locked in just yet. All these teams have potential to, or I should say not all of them, all of these teams that are within striking distance, probably like right in here, 690. I don't know if Sonics are going to be able to do it. Maybe Ghost up forward. All these teams have potential to perform really well throughout the spring split and then possibly try to grab one of those wild card spots at the end of the season. So it's up for grabs. It's a savage format in the double elim. A lot of crazy stuff can happen, and there's no telling how things are going to unfold. So we're going to have a really fun spring split here. And that is going to conclude Break Check for today. I hope you guys enjoyed the new overlays. I definitely am super, super excited about it. They are really fun. They look great. I'm excited for the little bit of a redesign for Break Check. I'm excited to get the spring split started and get Break Check back on a regular schedule. I appreciate you all being here. Thank you for hanging out, and we will catch you next time.